them a little bit because I haven't done a video with you in a while. So let's see what we've got going on with Mark today.
Okay, welcome.
The guru of grow. That's what you're going to be now. You're the guru of grow.
Okay. So we wanted to talk a little bit about watering and overwatering and underwatering. It's a very important concept to know about because some plants like water. Some plants only need a little bit of water. That'd be like a cactus and succulents. They don't want to be overwatered. But then you've got other plants, they're water plants, and they want all the water you can give them. Okay. Most of the plants are somewhere in between.
Thank goodness.
Right? And most of the plants want a little drink of water every day. That would be the best way to water things is keep them evenly hydrated. If you don't let the plant dry out, then the water will be more receptively joined in with the soil. If you let the soil dry out, the soil becomes hydrophobic and water will run right off down the sides and you'll have a real tough time getting that plant to absorb water. But be patient, it will absorb water if you keep trying. For a plant, if it's gone hydrophobic, I would recommend putting a saucer underneath it. Watering until you see some water come into the saucer, and then stop watering. Let that water absorb in. It's going to take about 5 minutes, and it should be all sucked back up in there. And then come back and water it again. Repeat this until the water does not get sucked up into the plant. After about 10 minutes, if there's still water there, that plant is sufficiently watered. Now, that would be to rehydrate it. You're not going to need to do that every day. That much water to rehydrate the soil is not that, it's not going to be that much if the soil's already hydrated. You're only going to need a little bit of water. So what we want to do is just give that amount of water. Now, according to the pot size and the plant size, this is all going to vary. See, I have 2 plants here in the same size cup. One gets watered once a week or less. The other gets watered every day. Now, we can attribute this to the amount of leaf surface. We've got like 1 leaf and 2 leaves popping off here. Let's call that it's about a 2-inch leaf. And then over here, we've got leaves like crazy on this plant. Well, this is, I guess, 30 times the amount of leaves. So, it would stand to reason it's going to need 30 times the amount of water, which is about what it gets. When I water this one, I give it just a little drizzle. When I water this one, I water it heavily. And I have to water it every day. So, we know that plants do have an amount of water that they like. And is learning this, that is part of the curve. We want to help everyone with that. So we can look at the plant and see how many leaves it has. And we can kind of judge the size of the leaf matters too. Because like I've got a plant out front, I think it's only got like 7 leaves on it. But it's an elephant here. Those leaves are enormous. It drinks water every day. Every day. It looks wilty if I don't water it. And if I put it out in the sun, it really doesn't like things. It likes the shade because it's a tropical. Normal in nature, it lives down on the floor below all the tall trees. Okay. But your field plants, your crop plants, which, the word sativa, all that means is that it is cultivated. Sativa means it's a cultivated plant. So most of our farm plants, garden plants, and stuff are in the sativa family because we're cropping them, harvesting them. Now, so we've got your cannabis, and cannabis sativa, cannabis indica, right? All those, they don't like right next to the water. They will grow right next to the water if there's enough sun. Typically, most streams and rivers have trees and other tall foliage right next to it. It prevents the cannabis from growing right next to the water. Therefore, it grows out in the sun. Okay.
What about does CalMag help with water absorption? Does it help?
CalMag helps with nutrient absorption. Water gets pushed into the plant through like pressure because the plant is having it pass there. So the water, I want to say falls into the roots. It kind of falls into the root. The roots absorb water like a sponge would. The roots actually do shrink and swell with moisture. So when a plant gets hydrated soil, the root balls are actually bigger. This happens with plants all the time. You can prove it like on a plant like this right here. We've got a plant in here and the soil's kind of dry. And if I pop it loose, it comes out very easily. Now we've got a plant that's completely root bound here, and there is no soil in the bottom. Now, if I filled this up with water, this plant would not want to release from the pot so easily because the roots are going to swell up. The soil's going to swell up. Everything is going to get bigger and not want to come right out of that pot. So for that reason, when we transplant, it's a lot easier to do with a dry plant. Okay, question?
Is it the same with tubers, like carrots and potatoes and stuff?
This holds true with just about everything I could think of that you would want to transplant.
Yeah.
Every plant, when it's in a container, when it dries out, the root ball shrinks up, the dirt becomes more solid, it makes it easier to transplant and put it into the new pot. So yeah, that happens with the tubers and every plant that comes to mind.
What are the other factors? Is temperature a big factor? You're going to have to increase your watering maybe, or?
Well, temperature is a factor. When we've got hot days, the plant is transpiring way more than on a cold day. Plants are like us, they are sweating, but we call ours perspiration. A plant, again, is transpiration. Though that happens, this process is evaporation because the earth on hot days evaporates more moisture out of the earth than on cold days. That's one reason why on hot days it is more humid, on cold days it is dry. The air doesn't get saturated on cold days.
But
The air gets saturated on hot days. We feel it in the air.
But does water really help? Like if you have vegetables that you don't want to bolt, you don't want them to bolt, does watering extra help them? I mean, that's been my my big downfall myself.
That's a very good question. Just this morning, I pulled out the radishes that were growing and bolting, and I separated. The ones that were bolting were there were greater numbers now than the ones that weren't.
I don't know what bolting
The
is.
ones,
Oh, bolting is when they flower or they fruit before they're supposed to, or
bolting
flower.
is what the stretch is called when they're making seed.
Yeah,
They start to change their appearance.
before they've made any food for you.
They shoot up that's called a spire that will come up with seeds on it. Okay? So that happens, and when that does happen, like on most everything I could think of that bolts, it becomes bitter and woody, really hard to bite into, and not favorable in the taste anymore.
Cilantro is like that.
Yeah,
Cilantro is, yes.
Really.
my parsley did that this year.
Mm-hmm.
Parsley does that too. Parsley does it quick. I have that parsley out front that's about 4 feet tall. Parsley, I like to leave all my things that bolt. Some of them that bolt are still good when you get the seeds. Like a radish. Okay, so not everybody likes a radish seed, but radish seeds are delicious. Okay? Let's talk about something for a minute, because this leads me on to another thing. When we got a plant, like a herb, the difference between herbs and spices, that's where I'm going with this. You know, there's a lot of plants that are both an herb and a spice. we know, anyone here want to see? I wonder if anyone knows the difference between herbs and spices. No? Okay, so let me not keep you in suspense. Herb is the vegetative portion of the plant. We've got leaves. The plant will have roots, stems, branches, leaves, seeds, and flowers. Okay. A herb is going to be the vegetative portion, all of your leaves. But a spice is going to be its seeds, or its flower, or its roots. For example, licorice is a root. That's a herb, or a spice rather, I'm sorry. Licorice is a spice, but then we've got things like coriander and cilantro. They're the same plant, but we call it two different things. Cilantro is the herb, coriander is the spice. Okay, we've got a lot of those going on. Cinnamon is a bark, but that is a spice. Okay, so we know that the vegetative portion is always going to be an herb, and those other portions are going to be spices. So all of your roots, barks, flowers, seeds, those are all going to be in the spice category, even though they come from the same plant. Another one that comes to mind is dill. We've got dill weed, which I love dill, and then we've got dill seed, okay, which is very different than the dill flavor, but we use it all the time in certain dishes. A lot of the countries that are dry use more spices than we do. That's why you'll see a lot of things from India, Pakistan, and things. Those are spices. They are heavily influenced with spices. Their herbs are not very many. They are far and few between.